didn't take me long to figure out where I stood on preschool subsidies. In the United States, public education is free from kindergarten through high school. I'm familiar with evidence that early access to education in the first few years of children's lives may be even more critical to helping them escape poverty than anything they learn later. I believe education is a fundamental human right, like access to water, food, shelter, and healthcare. That puts me on Team Deborah. As I watch the debate, her early arguments strike a chord. Here are some highlights.
Research clearly shows that a good preschool can help kids overcome the disadvantages often associated with poverty.
Data for the win. Be still, my beating heart.
You will possibly hear my opponent talk today about different priorities. He might say that subsidies are needed, but not for preschools. I would like to ask you, Mr. Natarajan, why don't we examine the evidence and the data and decide accordingly?
If Harish has an Achilles heel, my former student has told me, it's that his brilliant arguments aren't always grounded in facts.
Let me start by examining the main claim, that if we believe preschools are good in principle, surely it's worth giving money to subsidize those. But I don't think that's ever enough of a justification for subsidies.
Deborah has clearly done her homework. She didn't just nail Harish on data, she anticipated his counterargument.
The state budget is a big one, and there is room in it to subsidize preschools and invest in other fields. Therefore, the idea that there are more important things to spend on is irrelevant because the different subsidies are not mutually exclusive.
Way to debunk Harish's case for trade-offs. Bravo.
Maybe the state has the budget to do all the good things. Maybe the state has the budget to provide healthcare. Maybe it has the budget to provide welfare payments. Maybe it has the budget to provide running water as well as preschools. I would love to live in that world, but I don't think that is the world we live in. I think we live in a world where there are real constraints on what governments can spend money on. And even if those are not real, they are nonetheless political.
Valid point. Even if a program has the potential to pay for itself, it takes a lot of political capital to make it happen. Capital that could be invested elsewhere.
Giving opportunities to the less fortunate should be a moral obligation of any human being, and it is a key role for the state. To be clear, we should find the funding for preschools and not rely on luck or market forces. This issue is too important to not have a safety net.
Yes! This is more than a political or an economic question. It's a moral question.
I want to start by noting what we agree on. We agree that poverty is terrible. It is terrible when individuals do not have running water. It is terrible when they are struggling to feed their family. It is terrible when they cannot get health care. That is all terrible. And those are all things we need to address. And none of those are addressed just because you are going to subsidize preschool. Why is that the case?
Can Deborah argue otherwise?
Universal full-day preschool creates significant economic savings in healthcare as well as decreased crime, welfare dependence, and child abuse.
High-quality preschools will reduce crime, maybe, but so would other measures in terms of crime prevention.
High-quality preschool boosts high school graduation rates.
High-quality preschools can lead to huge improvements in individuals' lives. Maybe, but I'm not sure if you massively increase the number of people going to preschool, they're all going to be the ones going to the high-quality preschools.
Uh-oh. Harish is right. There's a risk that children from the poorest families will end up in the worst preschools. I'm starting to rethink my position.
Even when you subsidize preschools, it doesn't mean that all individuals go. The question is, who do you help? And the people you don't help are those individuals who are the poorest. You give unfair and exaggerated gains to those individuals who are in the middle class.
Point taken. Since preschool won't be free, the underprivileged still might not be able to afford it. Now I'm torn about where I stand. You've heard arguments from both sides. Before I tell you who won, consider your own position. What was your opinion of preschool subsidies going into the debate? And how many times did you end up rethinking that opinion? If you're like me, you reconsidered your views multiple times. Changing your mind doesn't make you a flip-flopper or a hypocrite. It means you were open to learning. Looking back, I'm disappointed in myself for forming an opinion before the debate even started. Sure, I'd read some research on early child development, but I was clueless about the economics of subsidies and the alternative ways those funds could be invested. Note to self, on my next trip to the top of Mount Stupid, remember to take a selfie.
I hope that gave you some insight into what we're trying to accomplish today. Now, let's kick things off by explaining some of the ground rules. We will call the debaters forward, and they will take their places. If you are for the topic, you'll be on the right podium. And if you are against, you'll be on the left podium. We will tell you how much time you have and when to start speaking on your topic by saying your time starts now. When your time is up, please stop speaking. We will do the same for your counterpart. You will each get 2 minutes to introduce yourselves and address any opening remarks. Then 5 minutes each to state your case. Then you will both have 2 minutes for rebuttal. Lastly, we will open the floor to the both of you for 5 minutes for open discussion. During this time, you will discuss on what you agree and disagree on. If you find you agree on something, please tell us so we can write it down. Once your time is up, we will ask if you have come to a consensus on all the things that we have written down for you. If yes, we will have you sign a paper with everything you agree on. If you have not reached a consensus, we will turn it over to the audience for a vote. The audience will vote by cheering for the for or the against. The winning party's points are all written down and solely signed. Debaters, you may choose to call a friend and engage the audience if you choose so. The rules are fairly unlimited. Use what you have at your disposal to convince the other side on your position. Please do not call Chief Bassar and Bass. The debates you will hear today are not official Air Force policy and may not actually be the views of the debaters. This is a learning event on inclusion. A healthy organizational debate is key to the success. Audience members, please limit your movement as it can distract the debater's train of thought.
Lastly, when debaters have 30 seconds left on the clock, I will raise my hand as a friendly warning. When your time is up, I will cut you off by saying your time, or yelling time. We ask that you please stop talking once your time is up. If you do not wish to use the time you have remaining, you may tell us you concede your time, or you can engage the audience. Just remember, their time is your time. We ask that everyone please remain respectful and courteous during the entirety of this debate. We understand that not everyone may share the same values or views, but it is understood that we should all treat each other with dignity and respect. Now, without further ado, our first debaters, Captain Maggazino and Technical Sergeant Young. Our first debate is, should volunteering matter in EPRs/OPRs? Technical Sergeant Young is for, and Captain Maggazino is against. As a reminder, you can engage the audience during your debate. However, their time is your time. Do either of you have any questions? All right. Technical Sergeant Young, you have 2 minutes for introductions and opening statements. Your time starts now.
Hello, I'm Sergeant Young. I'm from the 621 CRG. I really enjoy volunteering, and I totally feel that volunteering should be on an EPR. I don't need to go too in depth to win my position because it's really the only right position. I also don't need to pull an ad hominem. An ad hominem is when I make fun of my opponent or state facts that are derogatory about them. I don't need to do it, but I might do it here and there. I don't need to state a false fact. I don't need to say, you know who else was against volunteering, being on EPRs, doing volunteer work? Hitler. I don't need that. It won't add to the facts, because there is the fact that on this base, volunteerism accounts for $3.7 million worth of manpower. So volunteering should be a gimme. You know, a gimme like the rank of senior airman or captain. So with that being said, if we were going to defund that $3.7 million that we are getting from volunteerism, I mean, should we take that from our other gimmies? Like senior airman or captain? I don't think so. I think the captains and senior airmen deserve to be in the Air Force. I think that volunteering gives us a lot on this base. And what I'm trying to tell you all here is that the reason why it should be on the EPR is because it's an actual function that we do. Volunteering is a service that we provide to each other and off base. And it gives the people in the community and the people on this base the sense that we actually care, because we actually do care. Now on to my opponent, who obviously doesn't care. I can see my time.
Thank you. Captain Maggazino, you have 2 minutes.
I just want to make sure the mic is on. All right, this thing on? All right.
You have 2 minutes for introductions and opening statements. Your time starts now.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm here today to argue that volunteering should not be included on EPRs or OPRs. I contend that including volunteering on EPRs does not help promote the most qualified airmen. It does not help identify the best leader. In fact, it does the opposite. Currently, airmen are incentivized to find volunteering opportunities for the sake of filling up the whole airman concept block. I believe that if an airman is good at their job, leads well, shows potential, the performance report should compete with their peers based on those merits alone. The whole airman concept should focus on education and fitness, which are areas that are directly correlated with their job performance. The current system is unfair to single parents who might not have the time outside of work to volunteer on weekends. It's also unfair to members that are geographically separated from their families and spend much of their time traveling back and forth between states or cities. There are only so many hours in a day. Airmen have families, kids, responsibilities, and all too often, in a pursuit of that volunteering bullet, airmen will cut into their time at work, which actually degrades the mission. Some supervisors allow airmen to volunteer during duty hours, while others don't, creating an unbalanced and unfair playing field. It also creates resentment with that airman that cares too much about the mission to let it fail and stays at work late to make sure to pick up the slack for the airman who left early. Expecting airmen to have volunteering bullets incentivizes and sometimes rewards the wrong behavior. Too many times I've heard senior leaders say that when comparing records, the whole airman concept can be the tiebreaker. However, it's not clear how heavily education is weighted against volunteering. Whether, for instance, having both education and volunteering is more important than having, say, 2 more hours of college credits.
Time. Tech Sergeant Young, you will now have 5 minutes to state your case. Your time starts now.
Thank you. I really enjoyed the reading of the piece of papers in front of you. The basic position, I believe you said that it's unfair to single parents for volunteering, geographically separated, cuts time and unbalanced, it's unfair. I hate to tell you, but that's not the biggest problem with our EPR system. The biggest problem with our EPR system is something that creates dissension. Whenever you categorize somebody with a strat, that's my number 1 guy. That creates dissension between number 1 and number 554. Volunteerism does not create dissension. What it actually creates is that through your acts, you're showing the people around you that you love them. I only volunteer for one thing. I volunteer for military members. I have this thing called Send a Hero Home for the Holiday, where I send any E3 and below home for Thanksgiving or Christmas at no cost to them. My organization pays for it. I do that to show the airmen that I love them. I go to places and gather furniture and items for the airmen's attic. I'm showing the airmen that I care for them through my actions. I do understand the geographically separated and the single mothers and single, but I have a lot of volunteer events that don't take a whole lot of time. If you got out of work yesterday at 3 and you joined me down in Manchester, we had 5 furniture bedroom sets, 2 pianos, which are heavy, all at your thrift shop, available for all the E6s and below to go in there and buy at a much deducted cost. But I only fill the thrift shop after I fill the Airman's Act for free for all E6 and below. We've got $580,000 worth of furniture so far this year, and I don't think we're halfway there. But I enjoy doing it. And I understand the parent challenges. I have 7 kids. I love having 7 kids. But I also love showing my children what their father's going out and doing. I enjoy being a person who answers the phone call. And I know that I have people who can't all attend. There's a whole lot of different events. And I think that as you volunteer as an airman, you progress. The first thing I ever did volunteering was I volunteered at a soup kitchen. Last year, I got a phone call from a guy who owns a restaurant in Philadelphia. He said, Dan Aykroyd canceled his fundraiser. Would you guys like to have your fundraiser here? I said, yes, I would. Had a dinner, made $604,000 in one night with 22 airmen. One night. I spent $564,000 sending over 240 airmen home for the holidays. I made more in one night than I needed to send all the E3s and below in New Jersey who applied for the program home. And I didn't have to say no to anybody. Why? Because it's not one person, one single parent. I didn't do all this by myself in a vacuum. I did it with the help of over 973 volunteers. I had volunteer lawyers, volunteer webmasters, people who aren't even on this base, lawyers and webmasters and accountants to take in that money. All I had to do is go and get the money. Volunteering should be on an EPR for one simple fact. It's you showing everybody around you that you care. And you don't have to volunteer 100 hours. Lots of time, it's organization that makes it work. Volunteering should be on an EPR for one simple fact only. You volunteered to be here. This is a force full of volunteers. And some people might enjoy it, some people might not enjoy it. I personally, when I read packages for awards, I like to see those job bullets, but a lot of the times, when it comes down to that award, everybody has the job bullets, they end up being really close. And it's that education and volunteerism that sets them apart. And I think that whether you have a bachelor's degree, I have a CCF, I have a bachelor's degree, I have a professional manager certificate, I have official licenses that let me work on civilian aircraft, but that doesn't make me feel good. So volunteering to me is the same reason, I do it for the same reason why every single one of you are here in this room. It feels good. It feels good to do, and it does well for the airmen. And I think that if you don't want to do well for the airmen, then you probably don't want it on your EPR. You can push things like stratifications and things that make dissension in the ranks and not providing for your airmen. I can see the rest of my time. Thank you.
Captain Maggazino, you have 5 minutes as well. Your time starts now.
All right, first off, I'd like to thank Sergeant Young for the amount of time that he's put into volunteering in the local community and for the funds that he was able to raise to send airmen home, because that is very commendable, and I want to say thank you. It's also my understanding that you were the Volunteer of the Year last year, so how about a round for Sergeant Young? So I want to get a point across. I believe that volunteering is important. It's important to what we do. We are citizens of the communities that we PCS to, and it's important that we provide back to those communities. So I want to make that clear. However, what we're debating here today is whether volunteering should be included on enlisted performance reports and maybe officer performance reports. But as it stands, we don't have a whole airman concept block on OPR, so that's why I'm going to focus mainly on the EPR portion. So it is my argument that volunteering hours should not be included on EPRs, not because it's not important, but because when it comes to your job performance, the peers and the folks that are going up for a promotion should be evaluated based on their job performance, what they're responsible for doing at work. And there are multiple reasons for that. One of the big reasons that I touched on in my intro is that I think in certain occasions it incentivizes the wrong type of thing. So I'll come back to that later. So it incentivizes airmen to sometimes prioritize volunteering during their duty hours, which some career fields can do. Most of the career fields that have office jobs are able to do. But if you're a maintainer working 12s, or if you're in security forces and you have a certain amount of hours that you have to be at the gate shack, even if your supervisor wants to let you go volunteer, he or she might not be able to do that. And so in my opinion, that creates a disparity between different career fields that have different requirements. You talked about how the focus should be on stratifications and how that creates division. I think that's the next debate, so I won't touch on that. I'll let the next debaters touch on that. Let's see, what else? I think I touched on the most important things. Yep. I think I summarized most of my main points. I think I yield my time, and I look forward to the debate, the back and forth.
Thank you. Technical Sergeant Young, you will now have 2 minutes for rebuttals.
Actually, I appreciate your mention of the differing career fields. The best point that you just made actually makes mine just a slam dunk. When you guys go to make rank, he just said the differing career fields have differing factors of getting away. That's completely true. And those differing career fields also have different boards they meet to get promoted. Believe me, as an aircraft maintainer, I know that there's times where I've had to be at work forever. I also know that setting yourself apart through education in aircraft maintenance is pretty much easy. All I did was I went and got an airframe and power plant license. I waited 2 years and I got another license called an inspector authority, and now I can sign for any plane in the world to fly. And it's just time. But with those things being easy, that looks good in my career field. A lot of you here aren't aircraft maintenance. And in aircraft maintenance, they're not going to have a whole lot of people with a whole lot of volunteer bullets. In an office job setting, they will have a lot of people with a whole lot of volunteer bullets. So his point of the different career fields has nothing to do with anything. The different career fields, they're not in the same bracket and getting promoted, thankfully. So that is very fair. Now, also, with the difference between an OPR and an EPR, he mentions, the OPR not having like the whole airman concept. Well, not only do I believe that it's obvious you should have volunteerism on your EPR, but why isn't it on an OPR? I have a whole lot of events, and I really appreciate it when anybody shows up to show the airmen that they care about them. But more importantly, to me, my opponent has failed to make a point to where it's unfair, which is what he was just saying, because the different career fields do have different availabilities, and they're also in different promotion categories. So I'd like to concede the rest of my time.
Thank you. Captain Maggazino, you also have 2 minutes for rebuttals. Your time starts now.
All right, so I will address more directly your argument about how the fact that volunteering is included on EPRs is a good thing for the boards. I think that the onus should be on the convening board to figure out who is the best performer based on their job performance, based on their job bullets, and hopefully soon on the job narrative, not based on what they do in their free time. That is why it is a job performance review. Now, again, I think volunteering is important, which is why we have Airman of the Quarter Awards, Volunteer of the Quarter Awards, Volunteer of the Year Awards. I think those are great avenues to incentivize airmen to volunteer because it is an important thing and I think it is beneficial for the community, but I don't think it should be on your job performance report that then determines what your career progression is. Because let's face it, people have lives outside of work and different people have different goals, whether that be bodybuilding, fishing, hiking. Like I'm glad that you're passionate about volunteering, but other people have other things that they're passionate about. Maybe they're trying to cross-train. Maybe they're trying to gain experience in the medical career field so that they can cross-train in that career field. Maybe they're trying to get flying hours to cross-train to a rated career field, and they just don't have the time to juggle all these things. And so at the end of the day, we promote the best person doing the job. And then people who want to volunteer in their free time, kudos to them. I'm glad that those people are around. I just don't think it should be on our performance reports. Thank you for the debate.
All right, you both will now have 5 minutes for your open discussion. During this time, if you agree on something, please tell us and we will write it down. If you change your mind, let us know and we will cross it off. At the end of the 5 minutes, you can sign a document with everything you agree on or refuse to sign it if you believe a point still needs to be made. Also, you can refuse if you do not agree with anything on the document. Your time starts now.
I'd like to first and foremost say I like the way that you mentioned the job. I came to a point in my career where it was like, what else can I get certified in for my job? What else can I do? Right now on this base, I can sign any airplane to fly. On this base, other inspection authority people, it's just me right now. I can walk into FAA headquarters over at Philly, go out and work for United, and sign for those planes to fly. And I really feel like in my career field, on paper, I'm the best in the world at my job, so I can do everything I need to do, you know? But that doesn't make me the best maintainer. What makes me the best maintainer is when I get out there, not only being able to do my job, but also teach others to do it. And I think that volunteering gets the airmen to talk to me more freely. It makes them come to me and let me teach it, you know? And it's not just the job stuff that I enjoy teaching. I also enjoy teaching, like you were saying, interests. I love teaching like how to work on a house, how to power wash. You know, some kids, they don't even know how to do laundry when they get here. So volunteerism lets me become more adept at being that technical sergeant, that technical guy that they're going to come to for help. And I really would like that to remain on an EPR for the simple fact that it encourages good things in the community. And that's why I'd like it to remain on the EPR.
Awesome. I'd like to agree with Sergeant Young that volunteering is important. So I don't know if you want to. Yep. Okay. Sweet. And that it is definitely something that should be recognized, and we should reward airmen that volunteer. That's something we can agree on. Last question for you: how can I get a ticket to get sponsored to go home?
You have to be an E3 or below.
Ah, shoot.
See,
all right.
see, but I've actually been working to up that. I had one fundraiser that paid for all of them last year, and then this year I went to talk to the right guy, and he couldn't use his donation publicly, so he doesn't get the prestige, but he could tax deduct it all, so we found a win-win. And he was just like, yeah, don't go over $2 million. And me and the other guy who were there were like, huh? Like, you're going to pay for that much? I could send every airman E3 and below home right now for both holidays, Thanksgiving and Christmas right now. So that felt great. But I think that volunteering, it's like anything else. You get better at it the more you fail at it. So, you know, I had 563 different organizations tell me no for send a hero home for the holidays. Like everybody on this base, your Sergeants Association, or the Tinker, everybody told me no. And then the state chapter of the Knights of Columbus told me yes. So I think that everything in life is the way that you combine things, you know? You can, whether it be volunteerism or a certification or anything, I think that it's the way that you progress and the people that you have around you that's good people. I think if you're in a bad shop at your job place, you're not going to perform as well. It also lets me meet other people from around the base. Being in the 621 CRW, I don't get as much interaction with the 87th folks as people might otherwise. And I like being out there and being able to talk to people and get better at what I do.
We can agree on that.
Was that getting out and talking to other people?
Yeah. I agree that getting out, volunteering, networking with people across the base is a great thing. I'm not against that. How much time do we have left?
50 seconds.
All right. So my question is, why do you think it's important that it goes on the performance report, which is primarily supposed to rate how good you are at your job?
Because we have other things that aren't anything to do with our job on there. The best maintainer I know is a fat guy, 473 pounds, named Chauncey McGill. And Chauncey can fix any plane, but that dude would die on lap 1 of a PT test. That doesn't have nothing to do with being a maintainer.
So you're shifting the conversation. So you're saying because PT shouldn't be on it, and it is, I'm going to also put volunteering on it, even though it shouldn't be?
No, I'm saying that we have factors that don't contribute to our job on it already. We might as well have positive ones.
So I agree with you on that. I think there's certain career fields, I'm not going to name it, but certain career fields where it doesn't really matter whether you're physically fit. Others, like battlefield airmen, you do. So maybe we evaluate that as well.
Time! Debaters, please remain where you are as we read off what you have written down.
Hi everybody, I'm Master Sergeant Clyde assisting with note taking today. What we have for you guys agreeing is volunteering is important and should be recognized at some level in the Air Force.
Yes.
Sergeant Young?
Yes, I agree.
Also, volunteering is important for getting out and networking within other organizations and AFSCs across the local populace and on base.
Yes.
Yes.
You both made a lot of points. I wrote down those points. No matter of time, do you want me to talk about any of those and see if they agree on those, or are we good with just those 2 points? Those are the only 2 conclusions of the That's good? That's good. All right, I'm going to finish drafting this, and then I need you both to come down so you can sign that these are the agreements we made.
Yeah.
Let me pass it over to Rob.
For the crowd, I want to say that I tried to commit every foul in debating. I mentioned that ad hominem was an attack, and then without having any real knowledge of how he is as a person, I said, captains automatically make rank, just to try to lead you against him. But as a person, he's really a great guy. That was just, I try to do all the bad things to show when somebody's passionate about something. Sometimes they're a little mean when they shouldn't be.
No hurt feelings.
Yes, sir.
How about a round for our moderators?
All right, thank you. Debaters, if you agree with everything in the document, please step forward and sign. If you do not agree with every single line, please remain where you are at.